Hello and welcome back to a Squirrel Plays. Today we're getting back into the TTRPG world and we're going to have a look at the tools that the squirrel uses when building and planning a session. This isn't one-shot or campaign specific as it applies to both of them. This also isn't me saying this is the way you should do things, it's just me sharing what I use and how I go about it because I've been asked a few times. And the question usually comes up when it comes to map making. Every time I have a map-making stream, at least one person seems to come through and be interested in the software I'm using, so I thought, why not just give everything a little bit of exposure? Who knows, maybe it'll help somebody out there. And what's nice about a lot of the tools I use is that most of them are free, and the ones that aren't free aren't expensive at all and are thankfully just one-time payments, so hooray for no subscriptions. But before we get into it, I should clarify one more thing. I am a virtual GM, or a digital, or electronic, or whatever you want to call it. Not to be confused with an AI GM. I know that probably turns a lot of people off, but this is the hand that life has dealt me. There's not a big TTRPG scene where I'm at. Or at least there wasn't until very recent years, but even now you'd be really hard-pressed to find any kind of tabletop store out here. The community just hasn't been in my location for a long time. And that would probably explain why I wasn't really exposed to it until my early to mid-30s. And yes, when that happened, it was online. I know there are some groups out there in my area, especially now that the area has really been growing and expanding over the years, but you have to remember, I've lived in the middle of Hodunk Nowhere for many years. I was about 10 years old or so when Pokemon cards first hit the US, and yeah, I know I'm really showing my age here. I went out, bought the first starter set from, I think, Walmart, attempted to read the manual, didn't understand a word of it, and wanted to find somebody to teach me how to play. Actually, you know what? It wasn't Walmart. It was a Walden Books. I think that was the bookstore it was called. It was in the strangest place. It was in the mall somewhere. But you know what? Everybody that I talked to that had these Pokemon cards, none of them knew it was actually a game. They all thought it was just cards you bought to collect and trade. I mean, that's how far out of the loop everyone was out here in the sticks. And, you know, on top of that, everybody also thought Pokemon and D&D were satanic, so that really didn't help anything either.
Cute little Pikachu, and he's being energized by an energy ball. And now you notice he's not quite so cute anymore, and his little satanic tail is really erect.
All the trading card, tabletop, and TTRPG communities had to stay underground, and I never found them. So that's why I'm an online GM. I've never had the opportunity to play in person. But anyways, sad squirrel stories aside, let's get into this. We'll look at the tools I use for building a session, and then we'll look at the tools I use to run a session. It'll be easy peasy lemon squeezy, not to be confused with Easy D6. So everything starts with an idea, right? Or a whole mess of ideas if you're like me, but when you have that idea, what do you do with it? Some folks like pen and paper, and had I managed to swing a sponsorship with Rocketbook, this would have been the perfect segue. But I didn't, so let's talk about digital tools instead. I use OneNote. It's a pretty potent tool, and I use about 1% of what it has to offer. But I like the separate pages, tabs, and sections you can make to keep yourself organized. Also, being able to search through all of your notes quickly and easily is pretty handy when you need to look something up in a hurry. It's a little bit faster than thumbing through pages in a notebook, but hey, to each their own. I find it pretty useful for just splattering a ton of random ideas down all at once, and I would say they can be organized later, but I never do it because I'm terrible. Now, I think OneNote is free if you don't have an Office 365 subscription, but don't quote me on that. I've had Microsoft products for so many years at this point, I have no idea what is and isn't free anymore. But if it isn't and you would like a similar but free alternative, I have good news. Markdown editors are typically free and let you work in a similar fashion. By similar, I mean several pages of notes that you organize how you want. Obsidian is a pretty neat tool that lets you get thoughts down super fast as well as being able to customize it to fit your style. And even better, if you don't like Obsidian, there are loads of other free Markdown editors available, such as Joplin, PureWriter, Folding Text, MadNotes, and so on. But one thing I like about OneNote over the Markdown editors is that OneNote is synced up with my OneDrive, so my notes are all up in the cloud, meaning I can access them whenever and wherever. With Markdown editors, that's sometimes not the case. Some of them, like Obsidian, do offer a cloud service, but that costs money, and we're talking about free alternatives. You can set up some of them where your notes are being stored in a folder on your computer that is synced up to your cloud of choice, so that's pretty nice. When it comes to Markdown editors, you definitely have a lot of options. And another nice thing about said Markdown editors is that your files are all just basic text files. You don't have to worry about anything being proprietary, so if you decide you don't like one editor and want to try another, you can just move everything over to that one. And just to throw it out there, I have tried dumping everything into a single Word document or a Google Doc, but it just doesn't work for me. When I do it, it gets super cluttered and really messy. And here's where I'm going to lose all of my subscribers. I use Microsoft Edge as my internet browser. I know, it's terrible, right? What kind of loser uses Edge? Well, I do, apparently. There's a few different reasons I use it, but for the current topic at hand, it does have one feature that I really, really like. When you're searching around for images, you can just add the image to what Edge calls a collection. You can have different collections and organize them to keep things straight, and you can even add notes if you're like me and can't remember why you saved something. It's very similar to Pinterest, except, not shit. It actually works. And yes, you could just copy and paste pictures into your OneNote or even your Markdown editor, depending on which one you grab, but sometimes I like to snag a whole heck of a lot of pictures. This makes it a lot easier, and since it's all online, I'm not taking up any of my storage space. And I should mention, since I'm going to be talking about Foundry later on, is that you could technically use Foundry to put all your notes and whatnot in. You can separate them out into pages and groups and all that good stuff, and it's kind of like a light-duty Markdown editor, and to be honest, if I could more easily link notes to one another in Foundry, I would probably be tempted to use it for all of my campaign stuff. So the option is there, should you so desire, but we'll talk more about Foundry later. Right now, we're still in the planning phase. Which brings me to the maps. How do I make the maps? Like I mentioned earlier in the video, every time I do a map making stream, at least one person comes through and asks what software I'm using, and every time I tell them, they say they never heard of it. The software is called Dungeon Draft, and honestly, it's a darn shame that it goes by so unnoticed. It's not very expensive at all. It's only $20. You pay it once, and there's not a bunch of hidden or extra fees for extra assets. And speaking of assets, it comes with more than enough to make yourself plenty of maps, and if you do want more, there's plenty of other people out there making free assets for you to grab and use. And of course, there are people out there selling some too. It's a super easy tool to use. I love it. You can keep things super basic, or you can get clever and make some really interesting and intricate maps. Whether you want to make a map to just drop in and look at as a reference, or if you want to make a full-fledged virtual tabletop map complete with walls, layers, roofs, hidden doors, windows, and all that good stuff, you can. 10 out of 10, do recommend, not sponsored. Aw, man. And that brings us to running the session. For that, I use Foundry VTT, as I mentioned before. I know a lot of folks use Roll20 because it's free for now, with an optional paid version, and hey, I started over there too. But man, I despise Roll20. That thing is just awful. I know there's some weird politics behind Roll20 and how they feel about certain people, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about their tool barely being able to function. We used it all through the first campaign I ran, which was about 18 months, and I swear we had an issue every single time we played. And even if we didn't have technical issues, it's just not a very smooth or enjoyable experience to me. I find it clunky and unintuitive, and since I'm sitting here roasting it, I'll go ahead and say it's ugly too. But hey, it's free, right? So when we moved on to the new campaign, I really wanted to try something else, and I didn't mind dropping some money. Thus enters the scene, Foundry Virtual Tabletop. And man, oh man, is it a night and day difference. Obviously, you got loads more tools to use since it's a paid piece of software, but it's just so much smoother and more enjoyable to use. Now, it is $50, which I know some people are going to cry about, but it's worth it. It's a one-time fee and only one person has to buy it. You can host the game on your own computer and people connect to you. Or you can set up your own hosting service somewhere else and have it running 24/7. Totally up to you. What makes Foundry really great, but at the same time is also a complaint of mine for what sense that makes, is the ability to download plugins for it, or mods if you will, or well actually I think they're called modules in this, but you know what I'm talking about. People have made tons and tons of modules for this thing, like these snazzy animated dice, or ways to automate things, add special effects when casting magic, token swapping on a character, just all kinds of stuff. Which sounds pretty great, right? Well, it is pretty neat, but Foundry heavily depends on these plugins, or at least that's what it feels like to me. And by that, I mean people had to make some plugins for some of the most basic things that really should have been part of the base product. A couple examples, that would be the dice tray right here to quickly roll specific dice, or the ability to add a colored marker to a token so you can help separate bad guys. Or my absolute favorite, the ability to properly hide your rolls as the GM. I mean, even the dice had to be modded in. Why would you not make dice for your VTT? Come on now. But hey, plugins are all free, so I guess it's not too much to complain about, right? You know what I can complain about, though? Discord. I could, but I'll refrain. No. The point is, you will need something to communicate with. What tool you use is totally up to you. Heck, if you want to fire up Microsoft Teams and use that, do it to it. I'd honestly prefer that over Discord. And if I hate it so much, why am I using it? Well, it's because everybody else has it and we're all used to it. And really, that's all the tools that I use, guys. There's not much to it, nothing too fancy or extreme. The tools I use can be used to a very complex degree, but that doesn't mean they have to be. I try to keep things as simple as possible because, well, I'm pretty simple myself. You could absolutely set up Foundry to automate everything and have flashy effects up to the point that it's almost a video game, but this is supposed to be a tabletop, right? What fun would that be? To each their own, though, and to be fair, I could see how some parts of that would be pretty fun. And for this video shout-out, I'd like to give that to a commenter on my last video about world building and how much is too much. I don't know if his name is in reference to Memphis or not, but if it is, hey, how do you feel about the Memphis Pyramid becoming a giant Bass Pro Shop? I think it's taggy as all get out. Anyway, he left a really good comment, and I think it bears repeating, and since this video was a bit about making TTRPG sessions and campaigns, I think it's related. My good man, bring me the scroll of comments, please. If you're playing a game, you shouldn't create... Okay, I'm not doing that. If you're playing the game, you shouldn't create so much that the players have no room to contribute or change things. And you should definitely plan on having to account for their actions and not just within the adventures or challenges they face. Don't be too precious with your world. Allow the characters to run roughshod over it if they can, or at least try to, but make it as hard as it should be for them to do so. There is some delight in killing your darlings after all, and lots of rich story material. It's a playground. Let them play. Let yourself play. That's a good wisdom, as they say. And that's it. Now it's your turn to tell me the tools you use. Are you in person only? Virtual only? Both? Are you a pen and paper sort and nothing else? Do you have a massive digital archive of notes upon notes? Do you run an entire session in Excel? I would.